ambitious dentist, welcome to Start Your Dental Practice, the show for existing and aspiring dentists to take your dental practice to the highest possible level. I'm your host, Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com. In every episode, we aim to demystify the how to start a dental practice problem by bringing on world-class dentists, influencers, and consultants in the dental industry to pick their brain about how to get past the barriers involved from going from no practice to being a practice owner to owning your own successful dental practice. Back, my wife and I were craving sushi. We decided to go to the all-knowing Google for answers. So I pulled out my phone, I typed in best sushi in Little Rock. Within seconds, we had dozens of places to choose from. And after scanning the page for a few moments, we decided to go with the second listing on Google. We placed our order and the sushi turned out to be really, really good. So, as the sushi place can attest, that's the power of search engine optimization, or SEO. Unfortunately, most dental practices consider SEO as an afterthought, when in fact it can often be one of the most important methods of marketing for your practice. Today, I'm excited to have Mike Pederson, founder of Dental Boost, back on the show. You may remember him from SYDP episode 51, where he shared the best practices for your dental website. I wanted to bring him back on the show and have him share all things SEO. When thinking about your marketing plan for 2017, SEO is a great place to start. So here are a few things you're going to want to hear about. The bare minimum basics for learning SEO, the 3 SEO mistakes you can't afford to make, why you need to take SEO seriously in 2017, what to know when building a website for the first time, the light gray method to effective SEO, how to avoid SEO penalties for your site. At the end of the episode, you'll also find out where you can get a free consultation with Mike, where he will actually give actionable marketing feedback for your current website live. So be sure to listen all the way through this entire interview to get access to that. Now, here's my interview with Mike Pederson. Hello, ambitious dentists. Today, I have with us repeat guest, Mr. Mike Pederson. I almost said Dr. Mike Pederson, but that was an incorrect title for him. Mike is the founder, creator, man with the plan behind the Dental Boost. It's a fantastic marketing company. You may remember him from an episode probably back in the 40s. I don't know the exact episode number because we weren't really titling them with a number back then. But Mike had a really, really interesting episode where we talked about the homepage dynamics on a dental website, why so many people get how to design their dental website incorrectly, wrong, why it's just bad. We laughed about some of the mistakes that we see people still making today. Every time I see a slider image on a website, Mike in our interview, and just chuckle politely underneath my breath about how many stock images I'm looking at right now. So Mike and I were chit-chatting and we were just talking about SEO, which is search engine optimization, which is for all you guys out there that are even briefly into the marketing world, what that term means. It's actually kind of funny that nowadays I don't even have to explain what that means most of the time, because that's becoming so much more recognized as a form of marketing. Yep. Even 5 years ago, that was like this enigma mystery thing that people didn't think made any difference. But now the whole paradigm of that has absolutely changed. So Mike and I were discussing it, and we were kind of chatting about some of the things that are going on in the industry. And I said, hey, Mike, let's do a podcast about SEO, what it is, why people are getting it wrong, some of the dangers involved. Because guys, if you mess up most forms of marketing, if you mess up, like, it doesn't affect you that much long term, because you can just do a new campaign in 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is. SEO marketing done incorrectly can really just sink the ship of a dental practice's marketing, if that is one of your forms of marketing. So we were talking about it. I said, let's get a podcast together and let's do an interview together for you to discuss about really what it is SEO is and how things are getting things wrong. And so Mike, thanks so much for coming on today to talk SEO and get geeky with me.
Jonathan, thank you for having me on, and I've been looking forward to this since we decided we're going to do our number 2 or returning podcast. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, man. So tell me about, so for the people that, took my intro and they're like, I don't know what SEO is. Maybe I should. Explain to people like basically what SEO is.
Well, SEO is basically, people go to the internet when they're looking for a local service. So typically, I think the statistics now are up over 80% of all local searches are for services or businesses in the area, 80%. So, and that comes into what we call search engine optimization, where you're trying to rank in the search engines and more specifically Google, because Google owns about 70+% of the search volume out there, and then you've got Yahoo and Bing and all the smaller ones. But really, we talk kind of primarily about Google, although Bing's not bad, especially with the older clientele. I know my mom's in her 70s, and she uses Google, but she uses Bing still too. But search engine optimization is just it's playing the Google game, trying to get higher rankings for your business or services. So in dentistry, it would be all your services or just anything that you offer, that if somebody typed into Google anything related to searching for a dentist for any specific service, you're going to try to be that practice at the top of the rankings to get that click.
Okay. And so whenever we're talking about SEO, and I gotta be honest, I have a lot of people that talk to me about SEO services because they want to, they want to be on the podcast. And I actually have like an experience with being around SEO because prior to this, I, was always entrepreneurial, and I owned, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, I owned a portfolio of websites that, used SEO to be able to grow your traffic, so that people came through to your website. So I actually know quite a bit about it, and I've always been a little bit wary of letting people in to talk about it, which is, to be honest, guys, the reason I have Mike on is because I do trust him in doing things in the right way, just because I know this is a big danger. And it's another reason I was like, why have I not discussed this more? Because of the fact that I do know this is a danger. So Mike, tell people about the way that SEO is involved in your website. You're effectively trying to tell Google, here I am and why I'm relevant, right?
Right. Yeah, there's over 200 ranking factors. The head of our SEO department now, who we brought on a couple of months ago, just phenomenal guy. He told me that there's actually 600 ranking factors, 600, but there's really, there's about a dozen or a couple of dozen really big ones for sure. But there's so much involved with it, and there's just a lot of bad stuff going on out there, and it's unfortunate because in dentistry, dentists don't know what they don't know. And, they go to a conference and go to the expo, and you got a couple of good salespeople at some booths that sell them, and they whip out their credit card and go home and off they go. And I've heard this story hundreds of times on the telephone, and it's unfortunate, Jonathan, because there's probably more bad SEO companies than good ones out there, probably.
And a lot of the reason I think that is because of the fact that there's such a mystery behind it. You can't physically see SEO other than patients walking in the door or calling.
Yeah.
You can't see the work that's being done most of the time.
Or not being done.
Or not being done. Exactly. And that's the reason there's like that mystery behind it. Is like, someone saying, yeah, give us $500 a month or $1,000 a month, and we're going to make you have higher site rankings. I've had people talk to me about how, yeah, this guy got me really good Google rankings, and I would search for him. I'd be like, I have no idea where you're not showing up anywhere for me.
Personalized search.
Exactly. And what they would do is they would have them open up like an incognito window in Google Chrome, or they would share their screen,
right,
and say, I'm going to click a button now, and then they would have the dentist search on their computer for it, and they show up as number one.
Right.
It's just like a 3-card Monty type thing, where it's like,
sure,
follow the rock underneath the or follow the where's the king of clubs, where's the ace. So we're getting a little technical. I'm afraid we're going to lose some people by laughing about the things that we've seen people do and pulling the eyes or the wool over people's eyes. So back to what we were saying before, 85% of all transactions are started in Google. If you have the best website in the world, if you build the nicest website in the world and people can't find it, it's like whenever a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? If you build the nicest dental practice in the world, but it's in the middle of the desert with no roads,
Yep.
what is that worth? So if you are taking online marketing seriously, which I am a huge champion of online marketing in the podcast, I tell everyone, if you don't get into it now, in the future, you're just going to have to claw your way back. And it's going to be way more difficult in the future than it is now. So if you own a website and you're starting to seriously, research into SEO, what is like the bare minimum to understand how to start, influencing your website's rankings inside of Google? What are some of the ways to do that?
Well, first off, it's definitely on-page, what we call on-page SEO, and it's unfortunate that I'm not going to mention names. I've never done that, so I'm not going to mention names of the big companies out there. But I go and analyze a website, and we do what we call a digital assessment. So if anybody ever inquires about our services, I'll do a screen share, and I'll show them their website. Right on so they're at their home across the country, and I'm sharing my screen with them, and I'm talking about their website and going through the whole thing with them, and it's very valuable and it's pretty cool. But on-page SEO is letting Google know what each and every page is about, and that page should be relevant from top to bottom. That content should not bounce all over the place. You don't want to try to rank for every keyword on the homepage. You don't want to try to rank for every keyword on one page. You want to have a very, very tight website that has really good on-page optimization where you've got, let's say, porcelain veneers. So porcelain veneer page should have an image, and that image should have an alt. I don't want to get too geeky, but an alt tag, and that alt tag should be something related to porcelain veneers, smile makeovers, beautiful smile, whatever that may be. You could even throw the city in that alt tag. Should have so it should have an optimized image. Should have about 700 words of uniquely written content, not copied anywhere on the internet, folks. And most dental websites have duplicate content all over the place. And then you've got your page title. So you want to tell Google from your page title what that page is about and stay really focused on it. And then you've got your description, the value of the description, which is when you do a Google search, and then you see all these results. That kind of little, well, it's a snippet. It is called the snippet. So I was going to say that kind of snippet, but it's that little snippet below that clickable title. That's the page description. And there's a way to optimize that, especially like on WordPress, for sure. WordPress websites, which 95% of all websites are WordPress, but you want to have porcelain veneers in the description as well. So basically, you're letting Google know that page is all about porcelain veneers. And then icing on the cake would be a YouTube video embedded on there. That because Google owns YouTube. So if you had all of that on that page, boy, will that guarantee top rankings? No, but boy, you're setting yourself up to build your website the correct way that Google's going to love.
And so, kind of speaking back to that, dental practice, premier dental practice built in the desert. What you're basically doing here is you're building signs pointing towards where that practice is at that point, or even building the roads and getting the roads carved out, and allowing people to see what it is that is out there in the desert. And I guess a better analogy, actually, instead of being in the desert, would be that it's in the middle of a sprawling metropolis, but there are currently no road signs going to your practice.
Right. You've got competitors all around you that are getting those clicks and those search results, and you are not. So people are going right by your practice, basically.
Right. There's no sign out front or anything like that.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I like that analogy better. Hey, we just came up with a good analogy for that.
That's very, very good, sir.
Yeah. So okay. So we've got the road signs out now saying that this is what's going on. And again, to further that analogy, the road signs can be really decrepit, nasty, old-looking signs that aren't very helpful. You can't read them, which would be things like not doing the things that you said, but having a really nice, easy to read, with a very specific direction put onto it, is doing all the things that you said right now. Is that a fair way of putting that?
Yeah, on-page optimization, just making sure, and I can't tell you, Jonathan, how many hundreds of dental websites have the same page title for all 30 pages of their website. It might be their practice name. It might not even be I've seen some that have the word home on every page of their website. So,
Hmm.
so you're not even telling Google you're a dentist. You're saying the word home and that's it. So that's a huge mistake. I mean, Google isn't a mind reader. I mean, sure, they'll crawl your website and you hope that there's going to be a few dental terms on the website, but that page title still has a lot of pull for Google. That's kind of their number one priority. Is when they crawl that web page, they look at the title to see what that page is about. Then they want to see if you built out the page to support the title.
Hmm. So whenever you've done this, you've done this back end work. This is the type of, is this SEO optimization, or is this the start of SEO optimization?
Oh boy, it's just a start. It's just a start. Long gone are the days where, probably 10 years ago, not even 5 anymore, but let's say 10 years ago, you could keyword stuff a page. So you could go porcelain veneers Portland, porcelain veneers Portland, porcelain veneers Portland, porcelain veneers Portland, and you would rank.
You
And
have no idea how many times I'll be looking at someone's website, and it will just be like, blah blah blah, the dentist of dentist, 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 and it's poorly
oh my
formatted. At the
gosh.
bottom, there's just like 800 words just at the bottom of the website. It's
Oh yeah.
like,
Well, the killer is do a view source on any web page and then do that control F. Well, it's control. I think it's control. I've got a MacBook, but you do a find feature, right? And just type the word in. Type, and if even on a porcelain veneer page, you don't want to keyword stuff it. So you don't want more than 1 to 2% of all the content on that page to have that word in there. So if you see porcelain veneers 25 times on a page, that's a bit too much. That's called keyword stuffing. So you don't want to do that. But any dentist can do that, right? Get on your computer, right click a web page, a dental web page, or get on their own website and just do a little control F command and just type in the keyword and see how many times. And the opposite of that would be you don't see it at all, right? Or you see it maybe once. Then you're telling Google, well, it's a porcelain veneer page, but it's really not a porcelain veneer page. So we hope you take care of us.
makes a lot of sense. So make it clean, make it relevant, make it where where Google knows who you are and what you're trying to do. It's basically step one, getting those road signs up, having them be nice, clear instructions on where to go, and making sure that people can find your practice in that sprawling metropolis of all the other practices. Because guess what, guys? All the other practices are going to have websites at some point.
Yes.
So you've got to be able to be the one that has your signs out to be able to say, come find us, and telling Google to come to you. So, okay. So that's kind of the first part. And again, like you said, there's a lot more obviously that goes into it. And this is all very technical stuff. So I'm trying to keep it as broad as possible so the listeners on there, you guys can not get, just swept away in jargon or anything like that. But so we're starting with that. We're making it where Google can find us.
Mm-hmm.
What, if you're a website owner for the very first time ever, like you come into a dental practice, it doesn't have a website. We've seen this time and time again.
Oh, sure.
They don't even have a website.
Yep.
And then they'll come in and they'll look for someone to do a website for them. They'll get a website up and running, and then they don't see any type of return for for a long period of time, and they just say website marketing doesn't work for us. So, what does someone like that need to be looking into? What should they know?
Well, it's funny, and you mentioned this before we started, but when you launch a new website, you're a newborn baby in Google's eyes. You're a newborn baby, but it's not like you don't have a chance, right? The issue, the choice you have as a business owner, and I know we're talking about dentists, but as a dentist, as a business owner, the choice you have as a business owner is if you launch a brand new website, yes, it's a pretty steep hill you got to climb. But if you are aggressive in a good way, and you let's say you've allotted a good budget for it, like a real aggressive budget, you could in 2 to 3 months, depending on how competitive the area is. I mean, if it's Chicago, forget it. I mean, that's going to take you a year, probably 6 months to a year. But you could make a real big dent in your rankings. If you really say, okay, Mike, I want to make the commitment, what do we got to do? And you've got to build a lot of content on your website, a ton of content so that it's not empty. Every one of your services has to have 700-800 words of good written content. If you do that, and then you start doing some kind of community outreach where you get some links from local communities, like other businesses even, do a charity in the area and get a link from a charity, depending on the size of the city you're in, that can give you a big boost in your rankings right there. So you can outsmart the veterans in some of the smaller areas. Now, the bigger areas, they've got SEO companies. So that's going to be a lot tougher to beat them. But it's all is not lost with a brand new website. But Jonathan, you said a key thing. A lot of them launch the website and then they stop right there. They stop right there. And even at that, they launch sort of a half-done website. The content's not that great. They got a veneer page. It's got like 200 words on it. Whoop-de-doo. Google's going to give no value to that page with 200 words for veneers. But that's not the point. You've got to really realize this is a business investment. And if you want to be found in Google and you're brand new, you got to get a little more aggressive with it.
Makes a lot of sense. So you're the new guy on the block, and Google doesn't know exactly if you can be trusted yet or not, because they don't know. They don't know you from Adam at that point. And so you have to gain some type of validation, gain some type of trust from Google in order to be able to start showing up.
Right.
So you said, a very important thing in there about getting links from local communities and local areas.
Sure.
What does that do to SEO?
Oh boy, it gives you relevance to the area. Google loves community involvement. They love community interaction. And whenever you do something, any kind of charity, and I've had hundreds of calls with dentists that don't realize this, but I'll say, have you ever done anything locally in the charity realm? Oh yeah, every year we do blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, that's great. Let me go check out their web. Oh, they got a great, pretty strong website for, Google really likes this website. Are they linking back to you? What do you mean? And the dentist doesn't know, right? And I said, they're not linking back to you. I just checked. And I said, how long you been doing this? Oh, 6-8 years. We raise, $10,000 a year doing this. And I said, go back to them and get a link pointing to your website. You're a loyal charity giver. That's the least that they can do back for you is give you a link. And when Google sees that's real, valuable charity website linking to you, that is a big, big plus for you over a lot of your, and that could be a big plus over websites that are ranked in your area that weren't smart enough to go get those kind of links. If you get that link first, you just beat your competition for that one link right there.
The one that I always see is on the grand opening. They'll do like a Chamber of Commerce opening, and they'll get put in a paper or something like that. And they'll do a write-up on their local Chamber of Commerce's website or something like that. Yep. And there won't be a link on there. And I was like, come on. Like, that was such a good shot to get.
Oh, Chamber of Commerce is a good link. That's a great example of a good local link would be Chamber of Commerce. And getting, a news channel, maybe a local news channel, give back to them first. Do something for them and then get them to come to your practice so you get some good TV exposure, and then get that link from like a local news site. That's huge.
Yeah. We have a lot of there's an attorney's or law firm in town that they're on the local news channel, and every month they'll give a $500 check to a local charity.
Ooh, there you go. See?
And it's just the size of the firm is massive size firm. $500 is probably not that much to them.
I bet it isn't.
I can almost guarantee you they are paying more for those commercials that show them giving those checks than anything else. But they're doing good things for the community. I mean, they're spending their advertising. They're getting a dual boost out of the fact that they're using their advertising spend as well as giving money to charity, which is great.
Exactly. That's right.
But I can guarantee you they're doing these types of things with their marketing. They're getting things like link backs to their law firm and things like that.
For sure. Yeah.
So all that's really interesting. So we're talking about the things that really work, like you said. And so basically if we keep with that original analogy, now if we're talking about the links that other businesses are doing, basically those other businesses are putting up road signs outside of their business to get to your business too.
Yep, a signal. Yep, we call it a local signal. Yep.
Yep, exactly. And so the more of those, again, the easier it is for people to find you. The more optimized your website is, so to speak. So the good thing about that is that all of these things can be done and they get set up, and they typically stay there for a long period of time, and they're cumulative, right? The more you add, the better it does, and the harder it is for people to be able to add more road signs to get up and beat you, or get bigger signs, or get higher quality signs and things like that. But one of the things that we're talking about when we were talking at the beginning of the episode about the dangers in all of this is that if you're caught putting up signs in an incorrect manner, Google has the ability to just click a button, not even a button, it's just Google just,
You're
their
gone.
computers decide we're going to wipe this from the face of the earth.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you were just gone. You're literally, with the exception of people that know your website by heart or have your business card, you can just be gone in an instant. And so anything that you put into that work prior can be just flat out destroyed, right?
Right.
And so that is the dangers that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, that Mike and I were talking about, that kind of spurred this conversation. And so tell us some of the things that you see people do that that can, like, so if there's somebody out there that has a website and they have an SEO company that's working for them right now, give that person listening some type of advice to be able to see if they're putting up their road signs in an incorrect or in a not ethical manner, basically. So Google, by the way, if people talk to me about taxes all the time, they say, is this a white area of taxes or a black area of taxes? Or they'll say, or is this gray area? Like, I'll talk to doctors about their clinical philosophies, and they'll talk about white areas of clinical philosophy of being very conservative, or black areas of clinical philosophy where it's very aggressive. Everybody gets a crown. You get a crown, you get a crown, you get a crown. And then gray is where it's kind of in the middle. In SEO, there's the same thing, right? And what are the terms for like white, black, and things like that?
Right. Yeah, they got white, gray, and black. And one thing I want to say though, Jonathan, without getting anybody too freaked out in the listener world out there, is that as an SEO company, Google is always changing, and if an SEO company isn't evolving and testing methods and strategies and techniques that just push it a little bit, never ever to really full on get what we call Google slapped or penalized by Google. But if you're sitting on the same strategy that you did 3 years ago, you're gone. You're gone. It's not going to work. So you've always got to push the envelope a little bit. So I always say light gray, gray, which is just, a trickle from white to that next color. It's just a trickle.
Yeah, and if you think about it just in the terms of competition over a 3-year period, if you're not continually moving forward, then that gives everybody else a chance to come up to you.
And pass you. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. So, you can be doing everything right for a long period of time, and people can still catch you if they're doing things in a different way.
One thing I want to say real quick before I forget, I'm going to forget it. So let me just say it. One thing you'll notice too is a lot of times, like SEO companies, they'll put some of their client results as screenshots on their website, right? And that's social proof, right? That's like, hey, here we've done this. And the interesting thing when that happens is I'm a pretty analytical, anal guy. I'm going to land on like a dental SEO company or an SEO company, even in general, and I'll look at some of these results, and I'll go into Google and I'll be like, they're not there. They're not there. They're not there. And I'll go down all these screenshots and I'll go, they're not there. Well, what does that tell you, Jonathan? They got penalized. What they were doing stopped working. So when they did the screenshot, the rankings were there for the client. And then, as time went on, those rankings started dropping. And then pretty soon they're off the first page, which if you're off the first page in Google, it's pretty much, that's a no-go. You're not going to get any clicks to your website.
Absolutely. So as far as, seeing those people, give me some idea, or give the listeners some idea of if they can figure out if they have an SEO provider, as well as if they're just researching ways to do SEO on their own. Because everybody that does research will find those articles that will say, do this or do that.
Right. Yeah.
Pay $100 to this software, and it will just automatically give you 100 links
Yeah,
or
right.
something like that. What is it that you can do to figure out if your provider is doing something that is considered in the black area?
Well,
Black
one thing you can do is get in your own Google Analytics and look at your links, look at your backlinks. And if you see like, free dot, South Africa dot, whatever, that's not a good backlink. And if you see a few of those and you are paying an SEO company, you might want to have a quick phone call with the SEO company and ask them about those links. And unfortunately, probably the SEO company's going to go, hey, that wasn't us. That could be just maybe a competitor that's trying to penalize you. So you might not ever get a straight answer from the SEO company, but your own Google Analytics, you can check links right there. I mean, on your own. So that's one way to check. Another way is we always look for kind of traffic patterns in Google Analytics, traffic patterns, right? And you see some big spikes and you see some drops and up and down, but you want to see it pretty consistent. And if all of a sudden it flatlines, right? So you see the standard spike, up, down, all of a sudden, boom, it hits the bottom and it flatlines. Google doesn't like what you're doing. You've probably been penalized. And we had a client in a small town in Virginia. Not going to mention the town or anything, but had an SEO company and invested a large amount of money throughout about a year period. And in this small town, I think there were 6 dentists. Their best ranking was page 10. And they heard one of my podcasts and we got on and I said, you've got 2 options, start over. And truly, new domain name, new website, new everything, and let Google know you're going to give it a nice, clean, fresh start. Or we can, I don't want to get too geeky, but it's called disavow. You go in and you get all those links removed, which takes an enormous amount of time. There was tens of thousands with this one dental client, tens of thousands. So we had
spammy links that
this dental SEO company, it was just a nightmare. And he's now back on the first page for over 55 terms, 60 terms now, and he's happy, everything's good. But it took us about 7 months to clean up the mess. Maybe 6 months, something like that. But we didn't have to start over. But yeah, that's the scary part is, boy, oh boy, if you get penalized, there is a chance that you might have to start completely over with a brand new domain name.
And guys, trust me, this is that, even with Mike saying that they did all that work, there's still, you don't know what Google is going to do 100% of the time because there's so many factors.
Right.
There was a chance that you guys would have done all of that work and it would have been like trying to climb up an ice wall, like without anything but your fingernails.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want you guys to really take heed in that there are a lot of people out there that will promise short-term results. And that method, if you remember, we talked about the good way of doing it, which was getting, honest organic links where people were posting to your website because you gave charity or because you had an opening or had some event happening, some type of news release that's a local one that makes a ton of sense to have a link to your website on. There are like software programs and SEO companies out there that will promise the world to you, but what they do is they go out and they join these circles on the internet to where they'll just set up all these fake domains or these super cheap, domains from other countries, and they put the link onto those websites
that aren't even dental related.
They're not in your community. They have nothing to do with you. And they probably also link to hundreds of other websites because it's just what they call a link farm. Most of the time. And Google knows how to catch those guys. There's also like another more sophisticated one called these private blog networks, which Mike, if you want to, you can explain what that is as well.
Yeah, well, private blog network is where you get these kind of gray to black hat SEO guys. They're definitely not white, for sure. They go out and buy expired domain names, and they'll find, sometimes they might find a few dental domains that maybe the dentist just let his website expire, and then they snagged it. kind of right from underneath the dentist. And, the poor dentist might go back in to renew his domain, right, his website, and realize he doesn't own it anymore. And then what they do is they do poor backlinking, and they create a footprint. We call it a footprint or a pattern that Google can quickly find. And once Google finds any sort of a pattern or a footprint with backlinking, that's potential penalty right there for sure. And a lot of these PBN, private blog network approaches, these guys are like they're like rebels. They're kind of like, they'll do it, they'll try to make a bunch of money real fast, and they'll try to sell websites and do all the flip websites, do all this stuff. And when those batch of websites get penalized, they don't care. They laugh it off and go on to the next new thing that they're going to try. But unfortunately, in dentistry or a lot of small businesses, if you get hooked up with one of these people, they don't have your best interest at heart. I mean, they're proud to show you some fast results, but then very quickly those results go away, and then you're stuck with a bad situation that you don't know how to clean up.
Yeah. And that's more common than a lot of people would like to admit in every industry, especially in dentistry, is that there are a lot of SEO guys out there, listeners, that will promise the world in a short-term span. And typically, whenever I've seen that promise being given, that is precisely what is being done. Right. Is that they are spamming links to build authority, to try to build up all these road signs to that practice in that sprawling metropolis that don't make a whole lot of sense. They point to the right website, but they're not relevant. They're not in the right area. It's like, instead of putting the sign up in your sprawling metropolis, they put a road sign up in South Africa pointing to yours over in Little Rock. Yeah, exactly. And they're all over the world. And while they do point and they do count towards the algorithm that says that your website exists, they don't make a whole lot of sense. And so that can, like you said, it can lead to a penalty. So, and what Mike is saying as far as penalty is that Google, when they catch you doing something like that, they will penalize you to where all of a sudden they flip on a switch and you are all of a sudden in no man's land. Like all of your signs disappear and they get put into a holding cell effectively, right?
Right, and it could be indefinitely. I mean, if you don't do anything about it at all, it is going to be indefinite. And if you hire an SEO company to try to clean it up, like what we did for the one client, you have to disavow all those bad links. And for Google to crawl and find out that those links are not pointing to your website anymore, that can take months and months. And like you mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, that still might not work. And that's what we told this one client too, was I wanted to manage his expectations and say, here's our two approaches: start over, or we'll do a disavow and do the best we can. And he chose the disavow. In month 1, we got all the links removed. Month 2, Google started crawling his website again and seeing the links weren't there. By about month 3, month 4, instead of page 10, he was on page 8. Next month, he was on page 6. Next month, he was on page 4. So one thing, Jonathan, I want to tell you too, is that one thing that dentists, all the listeners out there, should really, really pay attention to is kind of gradual progress, right? So if you've hired a company that's doing a good job for you, you want to see a gradual improvement month after month after month. You don't want to see anything where 1 month all of a sudden there's a big drop and the dental SEO company or the SEO company, not want to say dental SEO, but they're scrambling and they're giving you, oh, well, there's an update and we're just bouncing around a little bit and blah, blah, blah. And next month we'll get back on it again. You should never really see a big drop ever. So the progress, that graph should always be, inclining up, even if it's slightly. If it's doing that on a month-to-month basis, then you're okay. You're okay. I don't think that the SEO company that you've got is probably doing an okay job. It's just, you don't want to ever see those big drops.
Sure. So as far as we've talked about penalties, and we talked about these different kind of ways that people can be affecting these rankings. Let's talk about Google updates. What exactly is a Google update?
A Google update is where all their scary smart people over there, and they've got people that do manual reviews, and so they've got human beings as well as all their software. I mean, $100 billion company over there. But the update is basically to serve the searcher better results. Google's goal is to always serve the searcher the best result possible. That's their goal. And along with that goal means doing these algorithmic updates where they wipe out these people that are doing bad techniques and not showing the best result. And when Google shows a result, and let's say a person lands on a website and they quickly leave that website, that's called a high bounce rate. And I don't want to get too geeky, but if you've got a website that's ranked #1, but within a month, everybody's leaving within 5 to 10 seconds, you're not going to be a #1 ranked website anymore, because Google's going to realize, well, human beings are landing on this website and not seeing value and leaving quickly. We're gonna bump this person down, this website down, and bring up the next website, and we'll give them a shot at it. So, things like bounce rate, engagement, social signals, all these ranking factors are really, really important when it comes to that. But it's the updates, if you can, this is the big thing. If you're I hate to say the word legitimate, but I'm just going to. If you're a legitimate SEO company, you'll make it through every update. Now, are you guaranteed, even if you're the best SEO company in the world, are you guaranteed to hold that #1 spot forever? No, absolutely not. You're going to bounce around. But if you're using a good SEO company, and let's say you've garnered that first position, you shouldn't fluctuate more than the first 3 or 4 spots ever. So you might bounce around. Google might serve up one of your competitors, and depending on the data center that you're looking through across the country, it could be a little different anyways. But if you're bouncing around between position 1 and position 3, let's say, you're solid. You're solid. You're going to get good clicks to your website. If you built your website correctly, like we talked about earlier, you're going to grow your business from the internet.
And so, and like you were saying, in these updates, a lot of the times you'll also have these people that have found this new way to do something that had been done in the past, like the link farms, or the private blog networks, or all the black hat things. What happens typically with these uncreative people that aren't trying to do the best long-term thing like Mike does in his company, what they'll do is they'll figure out a way to make what they used to do work now. And so it's just this constant back and forth of, okay, they figured that out, so we're going to figure out how to do it again in a different way, with different links, with different things, in a different way that we do it that, makes it to where that we can still game the system and cheat our way up there. And a lot of the times in these updates, Google's really smart. And in the update, what they'll do is instead of doing a penalty, they'll just change how everything is ranked.
Right. when an update happens, even the best ranking websites, there might be a little bit until the dust settles, and it usually takes a couple of days. It doesn't take a week or two, but a couple of days. But if you're really watching your website and your rankings, and a big update happens, it can be a little scary, right? Because maybe you own that #1 spot for the Portland dentist, and you've owned it for 2 years, and all of a sudden you're #7 on the first page near the bottom, and a big update happened, and you start freaking out. Well, if you've not done anything in a bad way, in an evil way, how about that? Google doesn't want you to be evil. Remember their tagline way back when, "Don't be evil," I think they used to say. If you haven't done something in an evil way, you'll rebound back. So once the dust settles, you'll be back up in that 1, 2, or 3 spot again. So that's really what we look for, is when we get those kind of top rankings for our clients, we want to stay in that 1 to 3 position. If you can stay in that 1 to 3 position through updates, you're gold. You're solid. You're solid.
Well, good. And so, guys, I appreciate Mike you coming on today. Talk to me a little bit about what is working in SEO right now. That's kind of the new thing, because again, everything's changing so constantly. What is currently working really well in SEO?
Well, it's something that we're doing, but it's. So what happens in any business, and let's say we're talking about dentistry, so we'll be specific with dentistry, is that you've got all these service terms, right? You've got veneers, implants, Invisaligns, dentures, bridges, all these service terms, right? And it's about 15 of them roughly. It could be upwards of 20, but the typical approach with most SEO companies, and it makes sense to the dentist too. is, okay, we're gonna go city and all of your terms, right? So we're gonna go Portland veneers, Portland Invisalign, Portland implants, Portland dentures, Portland bridges, and we're gonna try to rank for those. Okay. Well, unfortunately, there's a couple of that approach is kind of faulty in this reason only. Those are more general terms. So when somebody types that in Google, they might not be ready to hire you yet. They're still in research mode. When they type a general term like Portland dentist, that's not a very specific term. So there's going to be a lot of factors in their mind. Number one, when they land on your website, do they like what they see? Is it a good website? Can they get the information they're looking for? Then they're going to go to the about page. Hey, do they like the look of the dentist? Do they like the look of the staff? Do they like how the words on the web page? All those are really, really big factors. But it's going after those general terms. They're so competitive, and they're not a real qualified searcher to call your office, that everybody and their dog's going after those terms. And we've kind of changed our whole approach and gone after what we call buyer intent keyword phrases. And those would be like cost of Invisalign Portland. That would be like a buyer intent keyword phrase, right? And a lot of dentists out there if you've got SEO companies and you're doing really good with your rankings, type in some of these. We've got I'll tell you that in a second. What the list we came up with is just unbelievable. But a lot of the dentists that are ranked for those general terms, when they start typing in the real specific terms that are buyer intent, they're not ranked and they're shocked. They haven't optimized and done the SEO to rank for those terms. They have not optimized their website. So they're missing a huge opportunity to get a qualified searcher to pick up the phone and call them, right? And so we've determined 710 buyer intent keyword phrases in dentistry. And that's what we call phase one in the buyer intent phrase. We've also come up with 570 orthodontic buyer intent phrases and 210 Invisalign phrases.
Nice.
So yeah, so if you can imagine that large a number and the scale it would take to rank for all those, you don't just put an article up and spam all those phrases and try to get ranked. No way. But if you can get those rankings in time, can you imagine the qualified searcher that's going to land on your website ready to pick up the phone and call? So the approach that we're taking, that we're finding a lot of success in, is we're calling it our buyer intent keyword phrases. It can get into the long tail a little bit. Let me define long tail. Long tail is the search volume on long tail, meaning that the number of people searching for a long tail phrase is very low, but the long tail is 75% of all search. So can you imagine the aggregate total of all of those phrases? They dwarf the total search volume for those main phrases, right? I mean, so in your numbers, guys, so that long tail adds up to a much bigger number, but it takes the right approach and a lot of work and optimization to rank for all those phrases. But like a long tail phrase is like 5 words. So it could be male dentist Portland, porcelain veneers near me, right? So that's like a 7-word phrase I just gave you. That would be, and that's kind of an awkward phrase, but it's the more words you have in a phrase, that's considered the long tail. But look at that phrase though. If somebody has gotten into Google and they started adding, as the words came to their mind in that search bar, and they start, because people search, they don't search grammatically, right? When you go to the search bar, it's not a perfectly phrased search term they put in there. They'll put in like plumber Portland, bathroom sink clogged, right? And does that make grammatical sense? No. But the human mind, the person searching is like, oh, I better put bathroom sink in there. Hey, I better put that it's clogged, right? And as the words come to their mind, they add it to their search phrase. And so a lot of times a dentist will say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, think about it for a minute now. If somebody's searching and they typed in, how much does porcelain veneers cost female dentist, right? I want to work with a female or whatever. Then those phrases are coming to them as they're searching. But boy, is that a qualified searcher right there? Are you kidding me? That's somebody that if they land on a decent website, that's a phone call. So that's kind of what we're seeing now is, and it's an approach that we're seeing lots of success with. And, when you can go after, hundreds of keyword phrases, it's pretty powerful.
And so what you're doing there basically is back to the road signs, is you're putting the road signs up in the right place.
Exactly.
You're putting them
very
in the right
specific.
To where people are looking to see the signs, to be able to go back to the right place in Google. And I have a feeling that by doing that over a longer period of time, it increases all of the as well, as long as you have a well-designed homepage that has a specific intent created and a specific call to action created out of that, that will actually help the website in itself.
There you go. Thank you. You just took the words out of my mouth. Then as you build the authority in Google's eyes and you get all these rankings, then you're going to end up ranking for the main terms anyways, but it's going at it at a more realistic approach, because also you can rank for these buyer intent phrases quicker because nobody's going after them, right? Mm-hmm. And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I'll tell you a number that'll blow you away. I got my guy that's head of our SEO department to do some research, and I said, come back to me with as many searches that have ever been done and all the phrases we've come up with. And so what you do is you want to find out what's actually physically been typed into Google. You don't want to make up a phrase, right? You don't want to go to your dental client and say, oh, here's a phrase we're going to rank for. If it's never been typed into Google, that's not a quote legitimate keyword phrase. It isn't. But so we came up with 5,127 phrases that have been typed into Google at one point or another. Over 5,000 in dentistry. So can you imagine the potential for a dental practice with a long-term approach and a nice, safe approach? You could get ranked for hundreds, if not thousands of very specific keyword phrases in time. But it just takes a lot of work.
And see, and this is back to what we were talking about before, of well, there's guys out there that don't have your best intentions or your best, they don't want to bring the value, which is, this is the work involved. This is the long-term play to building an ironclad practice in that metropolis, to where your street signs make sense. They're all reputably built. They're all up to code. You didn't use any construction workers that weren't supposed to be working in the town. And you have the work that's done. They're put up in relevance points. Right. And this is true SEO. And there's a lot of people that do not do this. So I wanted Mike to come on to talk about this, because this is a lot of work for a company to do for a website and for practices. And so, and a lot of people don't understand SEO and what goes into it. So Mike, I really appreciate you coming on and kind of explaining what all goes into SEO and what you're seeing working right now. Having the data through of what buyer intent shows is so valuable compared to saying, like you said, having a, orthodontic braces female dentist typed in is so much more valuable than someone saying, orthodontic practice in Little Rock.
Exactly.
Why?
Right.
Because you don't know if that person's looking for an orthodontic practice to go to, if they're looking for an orthodontic practice to sell their services to sell, to try and market to them. If they're a small business.
Right.
There's so many things that occur when the random reasons people it could be a kid looking up, trying to do a report on a business in town. Whereas the other keywords don't typically make a lot of sense. However, they do have a purpose for the person whose fingers are typing that word into that search box. And being the first person that Google sees, the first road sign that Google sees, is really important. And being as close to exact on those words is the best way typically to be able to say, hey, we are relevant. So Mike, thanks so much for coming on today. Is there anything that we missed that you think we should be talking about?
No, I think that was pretty jam packed. I don't think I think if you ever want to if I'm ever fortunate enough to be back again for number 3, I'd always love to be back for you. I love doing this, Jonathan. You're a great guy, and no, I think we've given him enough to think about, and I think we've educated him a little bit on kind of what to look out for too. So I thank you for asking some really good questions. That was great.
Fantastic. Well, guys, I want you to reach out to Mike. You can reach him at, is Mike at thedentalboost.com?
Yeah, Boost spelled BOOST.com, thedentalboost.com. Yep.
All right, guys, I want you to reach out. So thank you to him and for giving his time today, for being a teacher for all of us out here. I learned a lot. I hope you guys did too. And everyone have a great day. Hey, a special thanks to Mike for sharing what's working in the SEO world. Implementing just 1 or 2 of his suggestions can make all the difference for your practice's SEO. So for the Start Your Dental Practice listeners, Mike is offering a free assessment of your current marketing practices. He and his team will do a live teardown of your current site and give you actionable tips on how to improve. To get that bonus, simply text PRACTICE to 33444. Again, that's PRACTICE to 33444, or visit startyourdentalpractice.com/bonus if you're outside of the U.S. You'll also receive updates on the latest episodes of Start Your Dental Practice, helpful tips for owning and running a practice, and promotional opportunities direct to your inbox. So that's it for today's episode, but that doesn't mean that the learning and implementation have to stop there. I've created a free report called The 15 Numbers That Will Make or Break Your Dental Practice. This report has been downloaded over 1,000 times by dental professionals. So if you want your free copy of this report that's going to outline what the most important numbers are in any dental practice, and it also includes how to look at your numbers, how to set goals, has a whole slew of really important information that is the culmination of all of my experience as a dental CPA, then just go to startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. That is startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. And so that's it for today, Ambitious Dentist. Again, I'm Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV. I'll see you next week with another world-class practice owner or consultant that will help you start your very own dental practice. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Start Your Dental Practice community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes to leave your honest feedback and review on iTunes. It's going to help me create a better experience, a better show, a better podcast for you, the ambitious dentist. Your feedback really does help, regardless if you like the show today or not. If you didn't like the show, let me know, because it's going to help me create a better show and podcast for you. Lastly, if you know of anybody that would benefit from today's episode and today's content, today's guest, please feel free to share with them on social media or through email.